Taking her recently quiet son from kindergarten, the mother tried to strike up conversation with other parents. The nanny approached cautiously and said quietly, "Look at your little one's drawings in the cubby." When the woman saw them, she went cold. On Saturday morning, the San Miguel market resembled a vibrant kaleidoscope of life. Vendors arranged ripe mangoes and avocados on their stalls, women in bright dresses sorted through tomatoes, checking each one for ripeness, and children darted between the rows. The air was filled with the aromas of cilantro, roasted corn, and freshly baked bread. Amid this colorful bustle, almost unnoticed like a shadow, sat an elderly gypsy woman behind a small folding table. A worn, embroidered cloth covered the wooden surface, on which lay a set of old cards. Her dark eyes, framed by a web of wrinkles, closely watched the passers-by, as if reading their fates by their gait and facial expressions. Camila walked slowly between the stalls, holding onto a cart with one hand and supporting her rounded belly with the other. The 8th month of pregnancy was taking its toll. Her feet swelled by evening, her back ached from the weight, yet her 25-year-old face radiated a special maternal joy. She stopped at every stall, choosing the freshest products for her future baby, mentally planning how she would set up the nursery. "Senora," called the gypsy, rising from her seat. Camila turned, meeting the stranger's gaze. Something in those dark eyes made her stop, even though she had never believed in fortune-telling or predictions. "I'm not looking to," Camila began. "Come here, child," the old woman insisted, stretching out her knotted hands adorned with numerous silver rings. "I need to tell you something. It's important." Something in her tone, an unmistakable urgency, made Camila step closer to the table. "Give me your hand," the gypsy asked. Camila hesitantly offered her palm. The old woman's fingers were surprisingly warm and soft despite her age. "Two hearts," the gypsy whispered, closing her eyes. "Two little hearts beat within you, child. They are bound by an invisible thread that cannot be broken by time or distance." Camila smiled involuntarily. "No, senora." The ultrasound showed one baby. A boy. The doctor was sure. The old woman shook her gray head, still holding Camila's hand. "He was wrong," she said, her voice growing tense, almost threatening. "But beware. One heart will be stolen, and the other will cry for a lifetime if you continue to be so blind." "What are you talking about?" Camila asked fearfully, trying to pull her hand away, but the gypsy held it tightly. "There is a black heart nearby." "But you don't see it," the old woman's eyes opened wide. "I don't understand who you're talking about," Camila whispered, a chill running down her spine. "You will understand when the time comes." The Castro family home stood in a quiet neighborhood of Santa Rosa, among other small, single-story houses with red-tiled roofs and neatly kept gardens. Alejandro had bought it right after their wedding, taking out a large loan, but he was proud to provide his wife with a home of their own. Camila opened the gate and slowly walked along the path, admiring the rose bushes she had planted the previous year. Soon, their baby would be playing here. She could already imagine teaching him how to care for the flowers, how they would pick ripe tomatoes from the garden together. "Camila," a voice called from the neighbor's yard. "How was your outing?" It was Rosa Contreras peeking over the fence, an elderly neighbor who had become almost like a mother to her. Camila had lost her parents in a car accident when she was 18, and Rosa's kindness had meant the world to her. "Fine, Senora Rosa," Camila replied, walking over to the fence. "I just met a strange gypsy at the market." "A gypsy?" Rosa frowned. "What did she say?" "Some nonsense. About 2 children, a black heart." Camila waved it off. "She probably just wanted money." Rosa gave her a long, thoughtful look. "Child, do you remember your mother-in-law is coming tomorrow?" Camila felt her mood darken. Consuelo Castro, Alejandro's mother, lived in the capital and visited them several times a year. Each visit was a trial for Camila. "I remember," she sighed. "Alejandro's been on edge all week." "I don't like that woman," Rosa admitted honestly. "Too controlling, too cold. And the way she looks at you, like you've stolen something precious from her. She's never loved me, Camila agreed. She wanted Alejandro to marry her friend's daughter, Marisol. Says she's from a good family. And I'm just an orphan. Shame on her. Rosa said indignantly. Your parents were wonderful people. Your father was a teacher, your mother a nurse. You won't find more honest souls than them. But they were poor, Camila said quietly. And Marisol's family owns a chain of stores. That's what matters most to Consuelo. Rosa shook her head. Be careful with that woman, child. I have a bad feeling about her. Her words echoed the gypsy's warning, and once again, Camila felt that same unpleasant chill. That evening, Alejandro came home later than usual. At 30, he worked as a mechanic in an auto shop, and physical labor came naturally to him, tall, broad-shouldered, with strong hands. But lately, Camila had noticed how often he seemed tired and tense. How was your day? He asked, kissing her on the cheek. Fine. I went to the market, bought some things for your mother's visit. Alejandro visibly tensed. Camila, I want to ask you. Please try to be patient with my mother. She loves us in her own way. In her own way, Camila repeated. Please don't start, Alejandro said wearily. You know how she can get under your skin. But she's my mother, and I can't just tell her not to come. Camila looked at her husband. Alejandro was a kind, honest man, but he had one weakness: he couldn't stand up to his mother. Consuelo had raised him alone after his father's death. All right, Camila said. I'll try. For you, and for the baby. Alejandro hugged her. Thank you. I know she's not easy. But soon we'll have a child, and things will change. She'll love her grandchild, and maybe she'll become more tolerant. Consuelo Castro arrived by bus from the capital on Sunday morning. Camila met her at the bus station with Alejandro, and the moment she saw her mother-in-law, she felt the familiar tension settle in. Consuelo was an imposing woman, tall, heavy-set, with gray hair pulled back into a strict bun. She always dressed in black or dark blue, wore gold-rimmed glasses, and had a habit of looking over them as if evaluating everyone around her. Alejandro, my dear, she said, hugging her son. Camila received only a curt nod. How are you? We're fine, Mom. How was the trip? Terrible. The bus was old, the air conditioning didn't work, and there was a woman next to me with a screaming child. Consuelo gave Camila a critical once-over. How much longer do you have? A month, Camila replied, trying to smile. You look awful. Swollen, pale. I hope you're taking proper care of yourself. Pregnant women shouldn't overeat. Camila clenched her jaw. Consuelo always knew exactly how to cut deep with her very first sentence. Mom, Camila is eating well, Alejandro said gently. Consuelo gave her daughter-in-law a cold glance. Are you going to the doctor regularly? Of course, Camila replied. Every 2 weeks. Which doctor? Dr. Gonzalez at the city hospital. Consuelo grimaced. The city hospital. Alejandro, how can you let her give birth in that dump? That place is full of all sorts of people. She cast a disdainful look at Camila. She should give birth in a private clinic, with a proper doctor. Mom, Dr. Gonzalez is an excellent specialist, Alejandro defended. And we can't afford a private clinic. I'm not stingy when it comes to my grandchild. Consuelo pulled a notebook out of her handbag. I did some research. There's an excellent clinic in the capital, Santa Teresa. Dr. Martinez, very experienced. An acquaintance of mine can pull some strings. Camila felt a wave of unease. But I'm already used to Dr. Gonzalez. He knows the specifics of my pregnancy. What specifics? Consuelo interrupted sharply. Are there complications? Why didn't you tell me, Alejandro? There are no complications, Alejandro said quickly. Everything is going normally. Then what difference does it make who delivers the baby? The important thing is quality. And at that hospital of yours, Consuelo waved her hand dismissively. Camila wanted to object, but Alejandro gently squeezed her hand, silently asking her not to argue. At home, her mother-in-law immediately began imposing her own rules. She criticized the food, too salty for a pregnant woman, the furniture arrangement, dust on the bookshelf, and even the way Camila walked. You need to move more, or the baby will be weak. By evening, Camila was on the verge of a breakdown. She locked herself in the bathroom and cried quietly. Just hang on, she told herself. 1 week. She'll be gone in a week. But the next day, Consuelo made an announcement. I've decided to stay until the baby is born. Camila felt her world collapse. A month of living with this woman felt like an eternity. Mom, that's not necessary, Alejandro tried to protest. We can handle it ourselves. Handle it? Consuelo looked at him like a disobedient child. Do you even know what childbirth is like? What the first weeks with a newborn are? And what if something goes wrong? No, I'm staying. It's my duty as a grandmother. And she stayed. Labor began on a rainy night. Camila woke up from a sharp pain and immediately knew it was time. The contractions weren't too strong yet, but they were regular. Alejandro, she whispered to her husband. I think it's starting. Alejandro jumped up as if scalded. What? Labor? Now? What do we do? Calm down, Camila said, though she was just as nervous. The contractions are still mild. We can get ready slowly. But the calm ended the moment Consuelo woke up. She immediately took control of the situation. Alejandro, call Dr. Martinez. I've already arranged it. He'll handle the delivery at the clinic. But Mom, we agreed to deliver with Dr. Gonzalez. Do you want to risk your son's life? Consuelo snapped. Dr. Martinez is the best specialist in the city. Camila tried to protest, but another contraction left her speechless. By the time the pain eased, the decision had already been made. Sweetheart, Mom's right, Alejandro said, looking at her with guilty eyes. Better to be safe. They reached the capital in an hour and a half. At Santa Teresa Clinic, they were greeted by Dr. Martinez, a man in his 50s with tired eyes and jittery movements. Camila disliked him immediately. He seemed too rushed, too fidgety. Consuelo, he brightened at the sight of Alejandro's mother. How are you? It's been a long time. Eduardo, dear, thank you for agreeing to help, Consuelo replied, hugging the doctor. This is my daughter-in-law. She'll be delivering my grandson. Dr. Martinez gave Camila a quick checkup. Everything's fine. Let's get you to a room. Consuelo immediately assumed the role of lead authority. I'll be with her. I have plenty of experience. I gave birth myself and helped friends. But I want Alejandro with me, Camila protested weakly. A man in the delivery room? Consuelo exclaimed. What nonsense! Men have no place there. As usual, Alejandro didn't argue with his mother. Camila was left alone with Consuelo and the doctors. The labor was long and difficult. Camila suffered for nearly 12 hours, while Consuelo spent the entire time ordering the nurses around as if the clinic belonged to her. Why is it taking so long? She demanded of Dr. Martinez. Is everything all right? Everything is fine, Consuelo, the doctor replied, though he looked worried. It's her first time. First labors often take longer. When the contractions peaked, she clearly heard 2 infant cries. 2. Her heart leapt with joy. Could the gypsy have been right? Could they really be having twins? But then something happened. The doctor and Consuelo were speaking about something. It seemed like she was trying to convince him of something. He looked uneasy, and for a while, they whispered back and forth. Dr. Martinez seemed unsure, but eventually nodded. Camila saw it all as if in a dream. What's happening? She tried to ask, but her strength was leaving her. Everything's fine, the doctor replied quickly. Just rest. When Camila woke up, Alejandro was sitting next to her, holding a newborn. The tiny baby boy was asleep, his little fists clenched. Her husband looked exhausted and shaken. How are you feeling? He asked, kissing her forehead. Where's the other baby? Camila asked weakly. Other baby? Alejandro echoed, as if he hadn't heard her right. I heard 2 cries. Alejandro and Dr. Martinez exchanged a glance. Sweetheart, Alejandro said gently. You probably heard an echo in the hallway. But Camila was certain she had heard 2 cries. A mother's heart doesn't make mistakes like that. No, I'm sure. Where's Consuelo? She asked. Mom went to take care of the paperwork, Alejandro replied. She arranged everything. We can go home tomorrow. Alejandro, tell me the truth, Camila pleaded. She looked at her husband intently, and suddenly, he broke down in a sob. Camila, the second baby was stillborn. Something about that story didn't feel right. She had heard the cry. But Camila was too weak to ask more questions. She took her son into her arms and pressed him to her chest. Mateo, that's what they named him. Camila held the baby all night, soothing him when he cried. But the tears she never shed for the second child stayed locked inside her heart. The first few months after the birth passed in a whirlwind. Mateo turned out to be a restless baby. He slept poorly, cried often, and demanded constant attention. Camila was worn out from sleepless nights and her mother-in-law's constant criticism. Consuelo stayed on to help for another 2 months, turning the young family's life into a nightmare. She criticized Camila's every move. Why are you feeding him so often? You'll spoil him. Why is he crying? You must be doing something wrong. Are you sure you have enough milk? Maybe you should switch to formula. Give him a pacifier. You can't hold him all the time. Alejandro tried to defend his wife, but only timidly. Mom, Camila is a good mother. You don't need to be so hard on her. Good? Consuelo scoffed. A good mother doesn't let her baby cry all day. She's clearly doing something wrong if the boy is this fussy. But what frightened Camila the most was Mateo's behavior. The baby cried often, and his crying sounded strange, as if he were calling for someone. Sometimes, Camila would wake in the middle of the night to see her 1-month-old son reaching his tiny hands into the air, as if trying to hug someone. Have you noticed how strangely he acts? She asked Alejandro one day. What do you mean? It's like he's searching for someone. He reaches out, cries. Maybe he feels lonely? Alejandro looked at her with concern. Camila, you're imagining things. All babies cry. But not like this, she whispered. He misses his brother. It's your own fault, Consuelo interjected, having overheard them. The baby died because of the way you behaved during your pregnancy. Camila couldn't believe what she was hearing. What do you mean, the way I behaved? Don't you remember? Consuelo turned to her son. The neighbors told me she smoked while pregnant. What? Camila felt the blood drain from her face. I smoked? That's a lie. Don't deny it, Consuelo said calmly. The neighbors saw you. And drinking beer, too. That's not true. Camila cried out. The baby woke and began to wail bitterly. Camila looked at her mother-in-law with disgust. The woman was lying, boldly, coldly, looking Alejandro straight in the eyes. But why? It's a lie, Camila repeated softly. I never smoked or drank during my pregnancy. Of course you won't admit it now, Consuelo shrugged. Who would? But the facts speak for themselves. The baby is restless, unhealthy. And the second one died. Mom, that's enough. Alejandro said sharply. Camila never smoked. Are you sure? Consuelo looked at her son with pity. You're at work all day. How do you know what she does at home? The seed of doubt was planted. Camila saw it, the way Alejandro looked at her with a question in his eyes. He had defended her, yes, but his confidence had cracks. That evening, after Consuelo went to the store, Camila tried to talk to her husband. Alejandro, you know I've never smoked, right? I know, he replied quietly. Then why is your mother saying such things? I don't know. Maybe she misheard, or the neighbors misunderstood something. But old Rosa would never say that about me. And neither would the Rodriguez family. Mom's just trying to make sense of why Mateo is so restless. And why the second baby died before birth. So you think it's my fault? Camila asked, her voice breaking. Alejandro hugged her. No, of course not. It's just. Mom worries. She wants everything to be okay for Mateo. But Camila could feel it, a crack had formed in their relationship. Tiny, almost invisible, but a crack nonetheless. Consuelo finally left just before New Year's, leaving behind an atmosphere of suspicion and mistrust. Camila felt relieved, but the problems hadn't disappeared. Mateo continued to behave strangely. He learned to sit and crawl early, but sometimes he would freeze and stare into nothing, as if watching someone invisible. At times, he would start crying for no reason at all. But it was the nights that frightened Camila the most. Mateo would often wake up screaming, not like a normal baby cry, but something different, sorrowful, as if calling out for someone. Alejandro was becoming increasingly distant. He worked more than usual, came home late, and avoided talking about the baby. Camila understood, his mother's words were taking root. One evening, he came home to find Camila crying in the kitchen. Mateo had finally fallen asleep after another bout of restlessness. What's wrong? Alejandro asked. Nothing. I'm just tired. Camila, maybe we should take Mateo to a doctor. He's been so agitated lately. We saw the pediatrician last week. The doctor said everything's fine. But maybe a specialist, a neurologist, for example. Camila looked at her husband. You think there's something wrong with him? I don't know. It's just, Alejandro sat across from her. Maybe Mom's right. Maybe something affected him during the pregnancy. You mean smoking and drinking? Camila asked coldly. I'm not accusing you. I'm just trying to understand. Understand what? Why your wife gave birth to a damaged child. He's not damaged, Alejandro said angrily. But something is clearly bothering him, and we need to find out what. At that moment, the phone rang. It was Consuelo. How are things? She asked her son. How's my grandson? Same, Mom. He doesn't sleep well, cries a lot. I knew it, Consuelo said, her voice tinged with grim satisfaction. Camila is a terrible mother. After that call, Alejandro became even more distant. He avoided discussing problems, spent more time outside the home, and looked at Camila with barely concealed disapproval. Camila knew the family was falling apart. But the scariest part was that she didn't know how to stop it. By Mateo's first birthday, the situation had become critical. Alejandro no longer hugged or kissed her. He slept on the couch in the living room, using the excuse that he didn't want to wake Camila when getting up early for work. Their conversations had been reduced to household logistics. How many times did he cry last night? Alejandro would ask each morning. 3 times, Camila would answer. No fever? No. Did he eat well? Normally. And that was it. No tender words, no hugs, no real concern. Consuelo called every week, always asking about her grandson's health. When Alejandro told her about the ongoing problems, she would sigh. Poor child. Paying for his mother's sins. The seeds of alienation grew slowly but steadily. Alejandro began to notice every cry, every sign of restlessness, every tiny deviation from what he thought was normal. And always, in the back of his mind, was his mother's voice. It's Camila's fault. She's failing as a mother. The breaking point came on a rainy February evening. Mateo had cried almost the entire night, and Camila hadn't slept, trying to soothe him. By morning, she was exhausted and on edge. Alejandro came home from work and immediately heard the baby crying. Again, he asked tiredly. Yes, again, Camila snapped. What do you want me to do, shut him up? I want you to finally admit what you did during the pregnancy. What? Camila felt rage boiling inside her. You think I'm blind? Normal babies don't act like this. Something affected his development, and we both know what it was. I never. Stop lying. Alejandro exploded. Mom was right. You smoked, you drank, and now my son is paying the price for your irresponsibility. Camila stared at her husband in horror. The man she loved, the man she trusted, the man for whom she had borne a child, was accusing her of something she had never done. You really believe that? She whispered. What am I supposed to believe? Your excuses? The facts speak for themselves. What facts? The ones your mother told you? My mother doesn't lie to me. And I do. Alejandro looked at her for a long moment. I don't know. But I can't live like this anymore. What do you mean? I'm leaving, Camila. The world collapsed in a single second. Camila stood in the middle of the room, holding a crying baby, watching her husband pack his suitcase. Where are you going? She asked quietly. To my mother's. Until I find a place. And Mateo? What about Mateo? He's your son. Yes. And I'll support him financially. But I can't live with you anymore. Alejandro zipped the suitcase and headed for the door. Alejandro? Camila called after him. He turned back at the doorway. I loved you, she said. I loved you very much. And I trusted you, he replied, and walked out. Camila was left alone in the empty house with her 2-year-old son. Rain drummed against the windows, and Mateo cried, as if he, too, understood that his world had just fallen apart. 3 years passed in a difficult struggle for survival. Alejandro sent child support payments regularly but never came to visit. He had moved to another city, found a job, and started building a new life. Sometimes he called to ask about Mateo's health, but the conversations were cold and formal. Consuelo also disappeared from their lives. No calls, no visits, as if her grandson had ceased to exist the moment her son left the family. Camila worked as a seamstress at a tailor shop, and the money was barely enough to get by. But the hardest part was the loneliness. Not physical, she had Mateo, but emotional. There was no one to talk to about parenting struggles, no one to share the joy of her son's first words or his little accomplishments. Mateo was a strange child. By the age of 3, he had become calmer, but new peculiarities emerged. He often talked to himself, played games for 2 even though he was alone, set 2 plates at the table, and asked for 2 identical toys. Who's the second plate for? Camila would ask. For my brother, Mateo replied, as if it were the most obvious thing in the world. You have a brother? Yes. Santiago. He's far away, but I can feel him. The first time she heard that name, Camila felt a strange sense of déjà vu. Santiago, that was the name she and Alejandro had also liked. But how could Mateo know that? Camila took Mateo to a child psychologist when he turned 4. Dr. Ramos was an experienced specialist, and his evaluation surprised her. Your son has no mental disorders. But it does seem like he genuinely misses someone. It could be a memory from the womb, when he was with his twin brother. Yes, he was. But he died, or so I was told. At preschool, Mateo also stood out. One day, his teacher, Senora Mendez, asked, Mateo often talks about his brother. He says Santiago lives far away, in a house with a red roof. Is it true he has a twin? Camila froze, unsure how to respond. She simply shook her head. Where did her son get such vivid ideas? His brother had died in the womb, hadn't he? By the age of 5, Mateo became even more withdrawn. He stopped talking about his brother with others, but at home, he still spoke to him. Sometimes Camila would find him sitting quietly by the window, a distant sadness in his eyes. What are you thinking about, sweetheart? She would ask. About Santiago. He's sad. He wants to come home. How do you know that? I just know. I can feel how he feels. We're connected. That was when Camila finally decided it was time to tell Mateo the truth. Sweetheart, you really did have a brother, but, you see, he died before he was born. That happens sometimes. I'm so sorry. I can see how much you care about him. Mateo looked up at his mother with wide, astonished eyes. No, Mama. Santiago didn't die. He's alive. I know it. I just know. Camila hugged her son tightly. Once again, she didn't know what to say. The day everything changed came in early October. As usual, Camila was picking Mateo up from kindergarten. The boy was unusually quiet, giving one-word answers to her questions. How was your day? She asked, helping him get dressed. Okay, Mateo muttered. What did you draw in class today? Family. His teacher, Senora Mendez, approached with a concerned expression. Senora Castro, may I speak with you for a moment? Of course. Is something wrong? Please, take a look at your son's drawings, the teacher said, leading her to Mateo's cubby. Inside was a stack of pictures. The moment Camila saw them, she felt the blood drain from her face and her heart skip a beat. On each sheet, drawn in pencil and markers, were 2 identical boys. On the first drawing, they were holding hands through something that looked like a glass wall or a large window. One wore a yellow shirt, the other a blue one, but their faces were identical. In the second picture, one boy stood at the window of a house, crying and reaching out. Outside the window, in the distance, was another house with the second boy also reaching toward him. The third drawing was the most detailed. 2 houses, one small and simple, the other with a red roof and a neat garden. In the first house, at the window, stood a woman with dark hair, clearly meant to be Camila, and a little boy. In the second house stood a man in a cap, a woman in an apron, and the other boy. Most striking of all, the boys were reaching toward each other across the distance between the houses, and above them arched a rainbow connecting the 2 homes. Mateo has been drawing pictures like these every day, explained Senora Mendez. And he keeps talking about his brother, Santiago. Camila took the drawings with trembling hands. What exactly does he say? He says that his brother Santiago is sad because he misses his real mother. He also says there's a dog in their yard and that orange trees grow in the garden. Camila looked closely at the drawing again. Sure enough, next to the house with the red roof was a dog, and in the garden were trees with round orange fruits. Senora, Camila asked quietly, where do you think he gets these ideas? The elderly teacher, who had worked in the kindergarten for 30 years, shook her head. I've seen a lot of children's imaginations. Usually, they evolve, stories change, new elements appear. But Mateo's been telling the same story for over a year. Every detail stays the same, the description of the house, the sadness, the name of his brother. And what do you think? It's strange, but it's more like he's seeing what he draws, Senora Mendez said thoughtfully. Maybe he saw a movie that stuck with him? No, I don't remember anything like that, Camila replied. The drawings haunted Camila all the way home. Mateo sat next to her on the bus, silent, staring out the window. Occasionally he sighed, soft, heavy sighs that sounded far too sorrowful for a 5-year-old. Mateo, Camila said gently, tell Mama about Santiago. The boy turned to her. But you don't believe he's alive. I do believe you. He's my brother. We were together before we were born. Then they gave him to other people. Everyone thinks he died, but he didn't. Mateo, how do you know that? I hear him talking to me. He told me about his house. Santiago tells me everything. We talk at night when you're asleep. He's sad, Mama. He wants to come home. That evening, as she tucked her son into bed, Camila asked, Mateo, do you want to meet Santiago? Very much, the boy replied seriously. We're supposed to be together. I'm sad without him, and he's sad without me too. And what if Mama tries to find him? Mateo's eyes lit up. Really? You'll help? I'll try, sweetheart. But I can't promise I'll succeed. That night, Camila couldn't sleep. Her mind raced with thoughts. If Santiago is truly alive, if he's living somewhere in this city with strangers, she thought, then I have to find him. The next day, Camila took a day off work and went with Mateo to see a child psychologist. Dr. Carlos Ramos welcomed them into his office, looked over Mateo's drawings, and spoke gently with the boy. Then he turned to Camila. May I speak with you alone? Camila led Mateo into the waiting room, where there were toys to play with, and returned to the office. Dr. Ramos looked at her seriously. Senora Castro, I've worked with children for 30 years. This level of detail and consistency in a story is not typical of a child's imagination. So you think? I think your son may actually have a connection to a living twin. But how is that possible? Twins often share a special bond. There are documented cases in medical literature of separated twins who could sense each other over great distances. If your second son is truly alive, what should I do? How can I find him? The doctor paused to think. We need to verify the facts. Do you have any documents confirming the death of the second child? Camila admitted that she had none. Alejandro, my husband, just told me the second baby died. I didn't think to ask for paperwork at the time. That's strange, the doctor noted. Parents are always issued a death certificate for a stillborn child, for insurance, for social benefits, for medical records. So I should contact the hospital? Yes. But your best option is to hire a private investigator. This will require a professional investigation. That evening, Camila sat in the kitchen for a long time, thinking it over. A private investigator would be expensive, it would take all of her savings. But if there was even the slightest chance of finding Santiago? She picked up her phone and dialed the information service. Good evening. Could you give me the contact information for private investigators in the city? The office of the Truth Agency was located in an old building in the city center. Diego Aguilera met Camila in a room that was simply but tastefully furnished. A man in his 40s with intelligent gray eyes and calm, professional manners, he inspired immediate trust. Senora Castro, he said, motioning to the chair across from his desk, tell me the whole story from the beginning. Don't leave out a single detail, even if it seems unimportant. Camila told him everything, from the gypsy's prediction and Consuelo's strange behavior during the pregnancy to Mateo's recent drawings. Diego listened attentively, occasionally asking clarifying questions and jotting down notes in his notebook. Do you have any documentation of the second child's death? He asked. No. I was simply told he didn't survive. Who witnessed the birth? It was Dr. Martinez at Santa Teresa Clinic. But he's an old acquaintance of my mother-in-law. Did she have connections in the medical community? Yes. Consuelo worked as a nurse at a city hospital for 30 years. She has a lot of contacts in the field. Diego set down his pen and looked at Camila intently. Senora Castro, if your son is truly alive, this would be a case of child abduction, a serious crime. Can you find out if it's true? I'll do everything I can. But I must warn you, it won't be easy or cheap. We'll need to access hospital archives, track down everyone involved that night, and examine all records. How much will it cost? Diego named a figure. It was more than Camila's entire savings. How long will it take? If we're lucky, 2 or 3 weeks. Start the investigation. Are you sure? We might find nothing, and you'll have spent that money for nothing. I need to know the truth. For Mateo's sake. He can't spend his whole life longing for a brother who might still be out there. And if he's not, we'll keep seeing the psychologist until he can finally find peace. Diego nodded. All right. I'll begin with the records from Santa Teresa Clinic. If things happened the way you suspect, there should be traces. And what should I do? Try not to tell anyone about the investigation. If your mother-in-law or your husband were involved, they might try to cover something up. I don't speak to them anyway. Good. Don't speak to anyone. Not yet. Camila nodded. After meeting with the detective, she felt a strange mix of hope and fear, hope that Santiago might be found, and fear that she might meet her second child after all these years. Time dragged unbearably slowly. Camila struggled to focus at work, and at home she kept catching herself listening for every ring of the phone. Mateo noticed the change in her. "Mama, are you looking for Santiago?" he asked. "I'm trying, sweetheart. He knows. I told him. He's happy you finally believe." Those words both comforted and unsettled Camila. Could the bond between twins really be that strong? Then, at last, Detective Diego called. "Senora Castro, I need to meet with you. It's best if we talk at my office." From the tone of his voice, Camila knew the detective had found something. Diego looked tense. On his desk lay a stack of documents and photocopies. "Senora, what I've uncovered is shocking, even to me," he began without preamble. "Your suspicions were correct." Camila felt the room blur before her eyes. What did you say?" "Your son Santiago is alive." The words hit like lightning. Camila gripped the arms of her chair, trying not to faint. Are you sure?" "Absolutely." Diego showed her the documents. "I went through the full records from that night at Santa Teresa Clinic. The original entry recorded the birth of 2 healthy baby boys." He handed her a photocopy of the initial record. "Look here, first child born at 11:47 p.m., second at 11:52 p.m. Both cried, breathed on their own, normal reflexes." "Then, what happened?" "This." Diego revealed another document. At 1:15 a.m., the record was amended. A new note appeared, stating that the second child was stillborn. Who made the change? Nurse Dolores Vega. Around 60 years old, worked at that clinic for 30 years. Diego pulled out another paper. "I found Dolores. She's retired now, living in a nursing home. At first, she refused to speak. But once I explained the situation, he paused. She confessed everything." "Everything?" "Your mother-in-law, Consuelo, did in fact work as a nurse in the capital's hospital. She maintained close ties in the medical community. Dolores was an old friend of hers." Diego opened a notebook filled with handwritten notes. That night, around 1 o'clock, Consuelo brought Dolores an envelope, 50,000 pesos, and asked her to correct an error in the records. "What kind of error?" Consuelo said the doctor had made a mistake, recording both babies as born alive. She claimed that one of them was actually stillborn. The documents had to be corrected to avoid traumatizing the young mother. Camila listened in horror. And Dolores believed her? Dolores was in a difficult financial situation. Her husband was seriously ill and needed expensive treatment. She agreed to alter the records. "What did they do with my baby?" Consuelo said she would take care of the stillborn child. He was handed over to people waiting outside the hospital. Diego showed her another photocopy. The next day, a death certificate for Santiago appeared in the archive, signed by Dr. Martinez. So Dr. Martinez was involved too? He was coerced. From what I understand, Consuelo paid him as well. Camila broke down in tears, no longer holding them back. My God, all this time. Mateo was right. He really did feel his brother. Senora, do you want to know who the baby was given to? Yes, of course. Diego pulled out the final document. The Lopez family. Miguel and Esther Lopez, a couple who had tried to have children for 5 years without success. Did they know the truth? No. They were told the baby was a newborn whose mother had died in childbirth. They took the boy believing they were saving an orphan. Where do they live? Diego handed her the address. Los Flores District, Orchid Street, house number 15. Camila looked at the address and felt dizzy. So the house with the red roof was real? Can I go there? She asked, her voice trembling with emotion. You can, Diego replied. But first, let's decide how to proceed. The Lopez family didn't know the truth for 5 years. They genuinely loved the boy and consider him their son. They named him Emilio. Camila wiped away her tears. Diego, I want to see my son. Right now. Senora, please. This is a very delicate situation. We need to think carefully about how to handle it. The Lopez family are victims in this, too. Will they agree to meet? I've already spoken with them. When the truth came out, they were shocked. Esther cried bitterly. But they understand the situation and are open to a meeting. When? Whenever you're ready. But keep in mind, for Emilio, it will be a shock. For 5 years, he's known the Lopezes as his only parents. Camila nodded. I understand. But Mateo has also waited 5 years for his brother. They have to meet. The trip to Los Flores District was one of the most emotional moments of Camila's life. Diego drove while she sat in the passenger seat, clutching Mateo's drawings in her hands. She had left the boy with a neighbor. The meeting with the Lopez family was to happen without the children, at least at first. Are you nervous? Diego asked. Very. What if he doesn't accept me? 5 years is a long time for a child. Senora, if the connection between the twins is as strong as Mateo describes, then Santiago, Emilio, feels that something important is happening, too. Los Flores was a quiet, green neighborhood with neat houses and well-kept gardens. As they turned onto Orchid Street, Camila saw it, the house with the red-tiled roof, exactly as in her son's drawings. Yellow walls, a blue door with a golden handle, white-framed windows, a green fence with a brown gate. In the yard, a swing, vegetable beds, a garage. And a dog, large, brown with white patches, barking at the unfamiliar car. The dog, Camila whispered. Just like Mateo said. At the gate, they were greeted by Miguel and Esther Lopez. Miguel was a man in his 40s, dressed in work clothes, with kind eyes. Esther, in her mid-30s, looked as if she hadn't slept in days, her face swollen from crying, her eyes red. Senora Castro? Esther asked, her voice trembling. Yes, Camila replied. And you must be Esther? The two women looked at each other, and the air grew heavy with emotion. They were both mothers of the same child, one by blood, the other by love. Please, come in, Miguel said, opening the gate. Inside, the house was warm and tidy, filled with the presence of a loved child. Crayon drawings hung on the walls, toys lined the shelves. It was clear this home had raised a cherished boy. Where is Emilio? Camila asked. At a friend's house, next door, Esther answered. We thought it would be better to talk without him first. Camila nodded. They sat in the living room, and Esther broke down. Senora, we didn't know. I swear by the Holy Virgin, we didn't know. They told us he was an orphan. I know, Camila said gently. You were victims of my mother-in-law's deception too. For 5 years I've been his mother, Esther wept. I got up with him at night, took care of him when he was sick, taught him to walk, to talk. I love Emilio so much. And now, Camila's heart ached. Esther, you gave him love when I couldn't. I thought he had died. But you saved him. I'm so deeply grateful for raising him with love, for making him feel safe and wanted. That's the greatest gift anyone could give me. Miguel took his wife's hand. Esther, we talked about this. If he has a biological mother, he deserves to know her. He should be with her. But how do we explain it to him? Esther sobbed. He sees us as his parents. Diego spoke up gently. Families can coexist. A child can grow up knowing he is loved by many, and that is never a bad thing. What do you mean? Camila asked. Emilio can return to his biological mother, Diego explained, but still stay connected to the Lopez family. They can be his second family, a place where he is equally loved. Esther lifted her tear-streaked face. Really? We'll be allowed to see him? Of course, Camila said without hesitation. You gave him 5 years of love. I have no right to take him away from you. And his brother? He really has a twin? Yes. Mateo. He's felt Santiago all these years. He's drawn him, talked to him. Emilio too. Esther exclaimed. He used to speak about another boy who was far away. We thought it was just an imaginary friend. Did he ever call him Mateo? Sometimes. And he'd say he missed his real mother. We were heartbroken. We thought we weren't enough for him. No, Camila shook her head gently. You've been wonderful parents. But the bond between twins, it's stronger than we realized. Miguel stood up. Would you like to meet him? Camila's heart started racing. Can I? Of course. But please don't tell him the truth right away. Let us prepare him gradually. They stepped outside, and Miguel called over the fence. Emilio. Come home. A few minutes later, a boy of about 5 came running through the gate. The moment Camila saw him, her heart nearly burst from her chest. He was the exact image of Mateo, the same brown eyes, the same dark hair, the same facial features. But this boy looked more open, cheerful, confident. There was none of the sadness that always lingered in Mateo's gaze. Santiago, Camila whispered. Papa, the boy shouted, running to Miguel. Who's that? These are guests, Miguel said gently. Come say hello. This is Senora Camila. The boy politely extended his hand. My name is Emilio. Nice to meet you. Camila took the small hand in hers and felt tears welling up in her eyes. Nice to meet you too, Emilio, she said, trying to keep her voice steady. The boy looked at her closely. Why did you call me Santiago? I often dream that's my name. And I dream about a boy who looks just like me. Esther and Miguel exchanged a glance. Camila crouched down to be at eye level with the child. What else do you dream about? A woman with dark hair, like yours. She's crying and looking for someone. And a house, not as nice as ours, but it feels like home. Emilio, would you like to meet the boy from your dreams? For real? The boy's eyes lit up. He's real? Yes, sweetheart. He's my son. And he's been looking for you too. The reunion of the twins took place the next day in the Central Park. Camila spent the whole evening preparing Mateo. Tomorrow you'll see Santiago, she told him. Mateo's eyes sparkled. Really? Finally. Yes. His parents call him Emilio now, but he remembers the name Santiago. And he's seen you in his dreams. Will we live together? I don't know, sweetheart. But we'll never lose him again. In the park, Diego was already waiting, along with the Lopez family, and the boy in the blue t-shirt, Emilio. As Camila approached, holding Mateo's hand, something happened that she would never forget. The boys saw each other and froze. Then, slowly, They let go of the adult's hands and walked toward one another. They stopped about a meter apart and stared into each other's eyes, two identical children, like mirror images. "It's you, brother," Matteo said. "It's you, the boy from my dream," Emilio echoed. Then they hugged and cried, softly, without words, just holding each other tight. The adult stood off to the side, afraid to break the beauty of the moment. "I knew you were alive," Matteo whispered. "And I knew you were looking for me," Emilio replied. The twins spent the whole day playing together. The connection between them was unmistakable. They finished each other's sentences, reacted to things the same way, moved in perfect sync. Esther wept as she watched them. "Look how happy they are. They really need each other." "Yes," Camila agreed. "They should never be separated again." Diego approached the two women. "We can arrange joint custody. Emilio can officially live with his biological mother, but still spend time with his adoptive family." That evening, when it was time to say goodbye, the twins hugged again, unwilling to let go. "When will we see each other again?" Emilio asked. "Tomorrow," Camila promised. "And every day after that." "I promise." News that Santiago was alive reached Alejandro. Diego contacted him, explained the situation, and asked him to come to resolve the legal matters. Alejandro showed up at Camila's doorstep on Thursday, while Mateo was at kindergarten. He had changed a lot in 3 years, thinner, with tired, hollow eyes and a look of someone deeply lost. "Camila," he said quietly. "Can I come in?" She silently stepped aside to let him enter. "Is it true? He's really alive?" her ex-husband asked. "Yes. Your mother stole him and gave him to strangers." Alejandro's face darkened. "What? Are you sure?" "There's proof. A nurse's confession, documents, witnesses." Alejandro sank heavily into a chair. "My God. And I accused you. I abandoned you both. I believed her lies." "Yes, you did, Alejandro," Camila said bitterly. She sat across from him, arms crossed, gazing at him with quiet sadness. "Will you press charges against my mother?" he asked, watching her carefully. Camila shook her head. "I don't want anything to do with your mother ever again. Let God judge her. The only thing that matters is that she never crosses my path again." Alejandro lowered his head. "Camila, forgive me." He looked up at her, his eyes pleading. "I was a blind fool. My mother always knew how to manipulate me, but this... Alejandro, your apology won't give back the years we lost." "I know. But maybe we could start over. I've changed. I finally understand how much family means." Camila shook her head. "It's too late. Much too late. But the children? They need a father," Alejandro said gently. "They will have one. I promise. Someone who won't abandon them when things get hard." Alejandro nodded, bitterly. "I understand. I've lost the right to your love. But could you at least forgive me for everything I've done?" "I forgave you long ago, Alejandro. So I could move on." The next day, Camila went to Diego's office to pay the remaining balance for his services. To afford it, she had taken out a loan. "Camila," Diego greeted her. "You're early. Did something happen?" "No, everything's fine. I came to bring the remaining payment," she said, handing him an envelope. Diego looked at the envelope but didn't take it. "Camila." "Diego, please take the money. I know this was a costly job, and you earned every bit of it. You have no idea how grateful I am to you." "No," Diego said, shaking his head. "I can't accept it." "But why?" Camila asked, surprised. "We had an agreement." Diego stood from his desk and walked over to the window. He stood there for a moment, silent, then turned around and cleared his throat. "Camila, because during this time, you've come to mean more to me than just a client. Camila felt her heart skip a beat. "What do you mean?" she asked, blushing. "I mean, I've fallen in love with you, Camila. I've fallen for your strength, for your love as a mother, for the way you faced everything and still believed in something magical. I can't take your money. Camila, I love you." She sat in silence, her mouth slightly open, not knowing what to say. After so many years of loneliness, she had forgotten what it felt like to be wanted, to be admired. "Diego, I don't know what to say. This is so unexpected." "You don't have to say anything right now," he said gently. "Just say you'll have dinner with me. Not as a client and a detective. As a woman and a man." Camila looked at him, this kind, honest man who had helped her find what she had lost most dearly, her son. For the first time in years, she felt like she could trust someone again. "All right," she said softly. "I'll go." Diego's face lit up with a smile. "Really? Really? But on one condition, when I have the money, I will pay you for the case." Diego laughed. "You're stubborn. Fine. We'll discuss it over dinner. Where would you like to go?" Camila shrugged, and Diego took the lead. He brought her to an elegant restaurant, where they spent a wonderful evening together, seated at a cozy table glowing with candlelight. "Thank you again, Diego," Camila said warmly. "I'll never forget what you did for me. And I will never forget the feelings you awakened in me, Camila," he whispered, and then, unexpectedly, added, "Will you be my wife?" A year later, Camila and Diego's home was filled with happiness. After officially getting married, they moved into a larger house, one with enough space for the twins and all the people they loved. Mateo and Santiago went to the same school and were inseparable. Despite their identical appearance, they had learned to embrace their differences. Mateo remained more serious and thoughtful, while Santiago was cheerful and outgoing. But the bond between them had never faded. On the wall of their shared bedroom hung several drawings. One was done by Mateo the day after their reunion, two boys holding hands under a rainbow, surrounded by adults, Camila, Diego, Esther, and Miguel. In a child's handwriting underneath, it read, "Our big family." Another drawing was a joint creation, a house with a red roof and an ordinary house connected by a bridge. Two boys walked across the bridge toward each other. The caption below, "We found each other." The Lopez family had become their second family. Esther and Miguel regularly visited Santiago, brought gifts for both twins, and helped with schoolwork. The pain of separation slowly faded, replaced by the joy of knowing that the boy now had a big, loving family. "Aunt Esther," Santiago asked one day, "do you feel sad that I don't live with you anymore?" "Sometimes I do," Esther answered honestly. "But then I see how happy you are with your brother and Mama Camila, and I feel joy." Diego turned out to be a wonderful stepfather. He officially adopted the twins, and over time, they began to call him Papa Diego. One evening, while they were all gathered around the living room table playing board games, Santiago asked, "Papa Diego, is it true that you found me?" "You found each other," Diego replied. "I just helped." "You're amazing," said Mateo, and everyone laughed. They all knew by then that love always finds a way to bring hearts back together. And somewhere, at that very moment, the old gypsy woman sat on the balcony of her small apartment, smiling as she looked up at the starry sky. "Love," she whispered, "is the most powerful magic in the world." If you liked the video, please support it with a like and a comment.